Why do so many men miss the obvious signs that a woman is attracted to them? Is it because they're blind? No, it's because they've been conditioned, taught to doubt themselves, to second guess, to hesitate when the truth is right in front of them. And here's the truth. Attraction isn't random. It's not some mystical force that appears out of nowhere. It follows patterns. Psychological, biological, evolutionary patterns that have been ingrained in human nature for thousands of years. A woman will always reveal her interest, whether she's conscious of it or not. It's in her eyes, in the way she moves, in the subtle shifts of her voice. But most men, they miss it. They assume she's just being nice. They ignore the signals. Or worse, they wait for some undeniable grand gesture that never comes. And that's why they fail. Because a woman will never chase a man who doesn't recognize his own value. Why is it that you can be in a room full of people and still feel completely alone? Why can you be in a relationship, lying next to someone every night, and yet feel more unseen, more unheard than if you were by yourself? That's a horrifying place to be. It's painful. And the worst part? It doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly in pieces like erosion until one day you wake up and realize you've become strangers. This is what people don't understand about relationships. They don't collapse because of one catastrophic event, not usually. They collapse because of neglect, because of small betrayals that seem insignificant in the moment, a missed conversation, a dismissive remark, a choice to avoid rather than confront. Every time you do that, you're carving a gap between you and the person you love. And if you do it long enough, if you turn away too many times, that gap becomes an abyss. You know what's worse than being hurt by someone? Being ignored by them, being made to feel irrelevant in their world. And that's what happens when you stop showing up in your relationship. When you no longer ask real questions, when you stop listening, not just hearing, but truly listening, when you don't fight for the relationship anymore because you're too tired, too comfortable, or too afraid. That's when love dies. Not in one explosive argument, but in a slow, quiet suffocation. Now think about this. What does it mean to love someone? Love isn't just a feeling. It's a responsibility. It's a contract. It's saying, I see you, I choose you, and I will continue to choose you even when it's inconvenient, even when it's difficult. But people don't want to do that. They want love to be effortless, automatic, something that just happens rather than something they have to work at. And it's a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. If you don't actively nurture the connection, it withers. It's like a garden. If you don't pull the weeds, if you don't water the soil, if you don't make sure it's getting enough light, it dies. And that's what happens when people get complacent. They assume that because they once loved each other, they always will. They assume that because things were good in the beginning, they'll stay that way. But nothing stays the same. Everything is either growing or decaying. There is no neutrality. And here's something brutal. If you neglect the person you love, someone else won't. Someone else will notice them. Someone else will listen, will appreciate, will be fully present in a way you've failed to be. That should terrify you, because no one leaves a relationship for no reason. They leave because they feel unseen. They leave because they've been reaching out for years and no one was reaching back. You need to ask yourself, how often do I truly pay attention? Not just going through the motions, not just nodding at the right moments, but really engaging. How often do you ask deep, meaningful questions? How often do you challenge each other to grow rather than just existing side by side? And here's the hardest question of all. When was the last time you truly fought for your relationship? Not fought in it, but for it. There's a difference. Fighting in a relationship is just conflict, arguing, blaming, resenting. But fighting for it, that's looking your partner in the eye and saying, I refuse to let this slip away. I refuse to let distance take over. I will do what it takes. But that requires something terrifying. It requires vulnerability. It requires effort. It requires a willingness to step into discomfort, to acknowledge your own flaws, to have difficult conversations rather than avoiding them. And that's why so many relationships fail, because people would rather pretend everything is fine than face the truth. So here's what you need to understand. If you don't prioritize your relationship, you will lose it. Period. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. And you won't even see it coming, because when love dies slowly, it doesn't make a sound. But the good news, you can change. You can decide right now to show up differently, to stop assuming, to start coasting, to start treating your relationship with the urgency, the care, and the attention it deserves. Because if you wait until it's too late, if you wait until the distance is irreversible, until the connection is gone, you'll wish you had done something sooner, and by then, the only thing you'll be left with is regret. Why do relationships feel so exhilarating at the beginning, yet so painful when they start to fall apart? Why is it that the very person who once made your heart race now makes you feel unseen, unheard, and deeply alone? That's a tragedy. One of the deepest tragedies a person can experience. And what's worse is that most people don't even see it happening until it's too late. Now, here's something brutal. People don't leave relationships because of a single argument. They don't walk away because of one mistake or one bad day. They leave because over time, something essential disappears. Respect. And when respect is gone, everything falls apart. Love, attraction, trust, all of it crumbles. And yet, so many people don't even realize that respect is the foundation. So let's get real. If you want a woman to stay deeply in love with you, to stay connected, to look at you with admiration rather than obligation, you have to understand this. Women fall in love with men they respect. Not men they pity, not men they tolerate, not men they feel obligated to stay with, men they respect. And respect is not something you demand, it's something you earn. But let's be clear about what respect really means. It doesn't mean dominance. It doesn't mean arrogance or control. Respect means she looks at you and sees competence. She sees strength. She sees a man who is going somewhere, who is capable, who is disciplined enough to handle his life. That's what keeps the fire alive. That's what makes love sustainable. Not just the rush of infatuation, but a deep, enduring trust in who you are as a man. But here's the problem. So many men lose that respect without even realizing it. They get comfortable, they get passive, they start making excuses instead of improvements, they stop striving, stop setting goals, stop holding themselves to a standard. And do you know what happens then? That admiration turns to disappointment, that attraction turns to indifference, and that's a death sentence for a relationship. Because let's be honest, women don't stay attracted to men who become weak. And by weak, I don't mean physically. I mean emotionally, psychologically. A man who gives up on himself, who stops leading his own life, who becomes dependent on her approval rather than standing on his own 2 feet, that's a recipe for disaster. And I'll tell you something even more uncomfortable. If she stops respecting you, she will start testing you, she will challenge you, she will push boundaries, not because she wants to hurt you, but because she wants to see, is the man she fell for still there, or has he disappeared? And if all you do is retreat, if all you do is crumble under pressure, if all you do is beg for her to stay rather than earn her love, she won't look at you the same way ever again. But here's the good news. You can change this. Right now, today, you can take back control. You can stop being passive. You can stop waiting for validation. Stop walking on eggshells. Stop hoping that love will just maintain itself without effort. Because here's the truth. Love is work. Attraction is earned. Respect is built over time through discipline, through action, through being a man of your word. You don't demand respect, you become a man who naturally commands it by being strong, by being capable, by having a mission, by being a man who moves forward rather than stagnates. So ask yourself, are you becoming a man your partner admires, or are you just hoping she won't leave? Are you actively growing, actively leading, actively becoming better every day, or are you coasting, assuming she'll stay because she once said she loved you? Because if you choose the latter, if you let yourself slip, if you stop striving, you may not lose her today, you may not lose her tomorrow, but you will lose the spark. And once that's gone, once she stops looking at you with admiration, it's only a matter of time before she starts looking elsewhere. So decide, right now, are you going to be the kind of man she respects or the kind she outgrows? Because in the end, that choice is yours. And that is what will determine whether love lasts or whether it fades into something you once had but never truly understood how to keep. Why do some men become invisible to the women they love? Why does the passion fade, the excitement disappear, and the deep, intoxicating connection turn into something that feels more like an obligation than a choice? It's a brutal question, and most men don't want to face it. They'd rather blame the woman or blame the relationship itself than confront the painful truth. They became weak. Now, I don't mean weak in the way most people think. I don't mean physically weak or financially weak, although those things matter too. I mean something much deeper, psychologically weak, spiritually weak. They lose the very essence of what made them attractive in the first place, their drive, their strength, their ability to stand tall in the face of life's challenges. And when that happens, when a man stops embodying the qualities that make him worthy of admiration, the woman feels it and she withdraws. Here's something most men never learn. Women don't just love you for who you are, they love you for what you represent, for what you embody, for the direction you're going in. A woman's deepest instinct is to be with a man who is becoming more, not a man who is settling for less. And the moment she senses you're drifting, losing your fire, making excuses instead of progress, that's the moment she starts to feel something even worse than anger, indifference. And let me tell you something, once a woman becomes indifferent to you, that's when you're in real danger. Because a woman who's angry, a woman who's frustrated, a woman who's even screaming at you, at least she still feels something. There's still fire there, there's still investment. But indifference, that's when she's already halfway out the door. And why does this happen? It happens because men stop growing. They become comfortable. They think, I've already got her, so I don't have to try anymore. And that, gentlemen, is the death of attraction. Because attraction isn't a state, it's a process. It's something you cultivate, something you build through your actions, your discipline, your ambition. Now, this isn't about impressing a woman with status or money or grand gestures. No, it's about the principle of forward motion. A man who has purpose, a man who has a mission, a man who is relentlessly becoming better, that is a man who commands respect, admiration, and attraction. That is a man a woman wants to be close to, chooses to be close to, because being with him means growth. But if you let yourself stagnate, if you stop challenging yourself, if you start expecting love to exist without effort, without movement, you've already lost. And don't think she won't notice. She will. Women have an uncanny ability to sense when a man is coasting, when he's just going through the motions, existing instead of striving. And deep down, even if she doesn't say it outright, she starts asking herself, is this the man I want to build my life with? And if that question lingers long enough, the answer will be no. But here's the hard truth. This isn't just about relationships. This is about you. Because if you're not growing, if you're not pushing yourself beyond your own limits, you're not just failing in your relationship, you're failing yourself. And if you can't respect yourself, how can you expect her to respect you? So what do? You wake up. you get serious about your own life. You stop looking for external validation and start building internal strength. You set goals, real goals, ones that push you, ones that force you to become more. You cultivate the kind of discipline that commands respect, not just from women, but from the world itself. Because let me tell you, there is nothing more magnetic than a man who is on fire for his own life. A man who is going somewhere, who is unstoppable in his pursuit of excellence. That kind of man doesn't need to beg for love. He naturally attracts it. And if you're not there yet, good. That means there's work to do. That means you have an opportunity right now, today, to decide, am I going to let my life slip into mediocrity, or am I going to rise? Because the truth is, you don't just keep love alive by staying the same. You keep it alive by becoming the kind of man she can't help but admire. Not just today, not just when it's easy, but every single day. So choose stagnation or growth, weakness or strength, comfort or greatness. Because in the end, a woman can only love you as deeply as she respects you. And you decide whether you're worthy of that respect. Why do men fail in relationships? Why do they find themselves in situations where the woman they once loved, the woman who once looked at them with admiration, now looks at them with indifference or worse, contempt? It's a brutal reality, and yet most men never see it coming. They wake up one day and everything is different. She's distant, she's cold, she's not the same woman she was before. And they sit there confused, wondering what happened, what changed. I'll tell you, you did. See, relationships don't just break overnight. They erode slowly, bit by bit, decision by decision. And what men fail to understand is that the way a woman treats you is a direct reflection of what you allow, what you reinforce, and who you choose to be. Most men think attraction is something that's granted, as if a woman falls in love and then stays in love automatically. No, attraction is something that's maintained, something that's earned. And the moment a man stops leading, stops setting the standard, stops being a force of stability, strength, and vision in the relationship, that's the moment the foundation starts to crack. Now, here's the part most men don't want to hear. She tests you for a reason. She doesn't just pull away for no reason. She doesn't get cold for no reason. She doesn't lose respect for no reason. No, there's always a cause, and more often than not, it's because you failed a test you'd even know you were taking. See, a woman will always test a man's strength, his emotional strength, his psychological resilience, his ability to stand firm. And she does this not because she wants to leave, but because she wants to know you're strong enough to handle her staying. And when a man fails these tests, when he becomes reactive, needy, insecure, when he starts chasing instead of leading, that's when things begin to unravel. That's when she starts losing faith in him, not just as a partner, but as a man. You see, women are biologically wired to seek security. Not just financial security, but emotional security, spiritual security. A woman wants to know that the man she's with can handle the weight of life, that he won't crumble under pressure, that he won't break when things get hard. And if she senses that you can't, if she feels even for a moment that you're weaker than she thought, you might not see the consequences right away, but trust me, they're coming. Because a woman doesn't want to be your mother, she doesn't want to be your therapist, she doesn't want to be the one carrying the emotional burden for you. She wants to be with a man who can handle himself. So what do most men do when they feel a woman pulling away? They panic, they start chasing, they start over-explaining, they start trying to fix things instead of being the man she needs them to be. And in doing so, they only make it worse. Because nothing kills attraction faster than neediness. Nothing is more repulsive to a woman than a man who relies on her for validation. A man who has no internal sense of worth a man who places his entire emotional state in her hands rather than standing firm in who he is. The hard truth is this: if a woman respects you, she will be drawn to you. If she loses that respect, she will pull away. And if you chase her while she's pulling away, she will run. So what's the solution? Strength, restraint, self-respect. You need to be able to stand in the face of uncertainty, in the face of emotional turbulence, and remain unshaken. You need to show her, not through words, not through pleading, but through action, that you are a man worthy of her admiration. Because here's the truth: a woman wants to be with a man she respects, she wants to feel safe, she wants to surrender to a man's leadership. But she can only do that if she trusts you to lead. So if you find yourself in a situation where a woman is pulling away, where she's cold, where she's distant, don't react. Hold your frame, focus on yourself, get back to your mission, rebuild your strength, and most importantly, never ever beg for her attention. Because if you do, if you lower yourself, if you chase after her like a lost puppy, you will lose her respect forever. And once a woman loses respect for you, it's over. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but sooner or later it's over. So be the man who commands respect, not through force, not through manipulation, but through strength of character. Be the man who can walk away if necessary, because when you don't need her validation, when you stand firm in who you are, that's when she will feel something even deeper than attraction. She will feel admiration. And admiration, my friends, is the foundation of lasting love. Why do so many men fail to recognize the truth about attraction? Why do they think it's something that just happens, that it's automatic, effortless, and permanent once it begins? That's not how it works. Attraction is delicate. It's alive, it shifts, it moves, it responds to who you are being. And if you misunderstand this, if you take attraction for granted, you will lose it. Most men don't lose women because they weren't good enough to begin with. They lose them because over time they become less than they were at the start. They lose them because they stop doing the things that made them attractive in the first place. And here's something most people don't talk about. A woman doesn't just wake up one day and stop feeling attraction. No. Her attraction dies in slow motion. It fades gradually until one day she realizes it's gone. And you know what's terrifying about that? By the time she realizes it, it's already too late for you to fix it. Now, what's one of the surest signs a woman is attracted to you? What's the one thing she will never do if she's genuinely drawn to your presence, your energy, your being? She will never act indifferent. Indifference is the death of attraction. It is the silent killer. See, a woman who is emotionally engaged with you, whether she's happy, frustrated, excited, even angry, is still feeling something. And if she's feeling something, it means you still matter. But once she's indifferent, once she stops reacting, once she no longer cares how you spend your time, who you talk to, what you think, that's when it's over. That's when attraction is gone, and it doesn't come back easily, if at all. This is why men who constantly seek approval from women, who try to win them over through endless validation, fail so miserably. Because they don't realize that the moment a woman starts treating them with indifference, they've already lost the battle. And here's the hard part: you cannot negotiate attraction. You cannot beg for it. You cannot plead, argue, or reason your way back into a woman's desire. If you try, you only dig your grave deeper. Think about it. Have you ever seen a man try to talk his way back into a woman's heart? Have you ever seen a man say, "But look at everything I've done for you. Look at how much I care. Look at how much I love you"? And have those words ever reignited a woman's passion? No, never. Because attraction isn't logical. It isn't based on fairness. It isn't something you can argue into existence. It is felt. deeply, instinctively, biologically. And once it's gone, words cannot bring it back. So what can? Action, presence, strength. You don't reignite attraction through desperation. You do it through transformation. You do it by becoming the kind of man who naturally commands respect, admiration, and desire. A woman is never indifferent to a man who fascinates her, a man who moves with purpose, a man who holds his own space, a man who doesn't need her approval to feel valuable, because his value is internal. When a woman is attracted to you, she engages, she leans in, she responds to your energy, to your presence, she cares, even if she pretends not to. But the moment she stops, the moment she acts like you don't exist, that's when you need to wake up. That's when you need to realize that something has shifted, not in her, but in you. You see, the worst thing a man can do when faced with indifference is to chase harder. Because chasing doesn't build attraction, it destroys it. It confirms to her on a deep subconscious level that you need her more than she needs you. And that imbalance is fatal. So what do? You step back, you refocus, you rebuild, not for her but for you. You stop being reactive, you stop letting her emotional shifts dictate your sense of self-worth. You remember who the hell you are and you start living like it. Because here's the brutal truth. A woman will never be indifferent to a man she respects. And respect, my friends, is the foundation of attraction. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where a woman is acting like you don't matter, don't waste your time trying to convince her otherwise. Show her through your actions. Or better yet, let her feel what it's like to lose a man she once admired. And when you do that, when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to force attraction, when you start living with purpose, that's when everything changes. That's when she looks at you differently. That's when she feels something again. Because at the end of the day, attraction is not about words. It's about who you are. And if you become the man you were always meant to be, a woman will never be indifferent to you. And if she is, then she's already lost you.